Just like we are going to be discussing, I don't encourage people just being interested in a wish list for just 1 year. It should be your yearly plan should be pulled out of a 10-year or a 20-year or a 30-year plan, so that it rolls into your purpose for life. So it's not just a one-shot kind of wish list. You say 2020, well, as for 2020, I'll do something. And 2021, you don't do anything. 2022, you try and do something. If your life is like that, then you live your life to become a product of happenstance. And if you want to even look at the nations that we call developed nations, you notice that they are where they are, and they are called wealthy states, because where they are today is not just a product of yesterday. It's a product of a very long thought, and they roll each of them out as and when, with or without a particular person from whichever kind of party. And I think that should be how our lives are run. Even for companies, if you notice, for very good companies, multinationals, sometime November, they probably were trying to look into 2020, which may be a fraction of their 10-year or 20-year plans. And everybody wakes up every morning to go to that office to work towards that goal for the year. Even for political parties, I mean, the least you see them do is manifestos that cover 4 years. So they think in a number of years, multiple of years.
Not just one.
Not just one. And so when they are given the opportunity to rule, they live by that document. And that is what we also as citizenry use as a measure of whether they are doing what they say they will do or not. And that is what development is about. Unfortunately, for individuals, either in the corporate world, even in senior political positions and ordinary people, we live each day at a time, and we don't recognize the power of planning. We just leave it at the level of institution. And that is why, even as a nation, we may not be running at the pace we are supposed to be. So today, this conversation would get everybody from the individual to think like the organizations do, so that the product of the organization's success would reflect on the individual lives. And business and companies should be interested in the people they employ, whether they are also thinking like the organization is thinking, so that success is reflected from the micro unit to the macro level across.
So even for an institution, you should be concerned that your employees think in long term.
You should be, because if you have sat on a number of multinational interviews, and one of the questions we always ask any emerging leader in the organization is, where do you see yourself 5 years from now? Why do we ask that question? We ask that because we want to see whether the future blueprint of that individual is in sync with the organization's picture of their future. So when we get that answer of whatever is cooked at the spot of the interview, we don't follow through to be sure that that person is aligned to our goals in the future. That is why you will be surprised by a turnover. That is why you will be surprised by a non-performance by the guy who spoke so well at the interview, because you are not interested in individuals living the same way as the institution want to live. So many companies went on a retreat sometime in November, trying to roll out 2020. How many managers have looked at their employees and made an effort to bring them to that same level of living lifestyle, so that they have thought about how they are going to conduct themselves in attitude, in values, in execution, and it is in line with the organization's values? When it's not like that, you would be living as and when, and that doesn't reflect positively on the organization.
Tell me how a picture of a life can look like at the year 2030 if they don't take this conversation seriously enough.
Right. So if you don't take this conversation seriously, what will happen is that you would be a product of another person's thoughts. Because it's okay if you don't want to plan for 2030. Somebody else has a plan for you in 2030.
Who?
Example, you might not have thought about what kind of expense you would want to make on the mobile device you use and what kind of mobile device you'll be using. That's okay. Samsung has thought about you for 2030. So you wake up one morning 2030 and there is a 2030 version of the phone. And because you might not have planned about your income levels and the kind of income you need to earn to be able to afford that, you probably have to take a loan to buy that phone. And so you become a product of their thoughts. That is why if you don't become intentionally driven and look into 10 years from today, I think it's John Legend who said that the future began yesterday. And so we are even late as we are speaking. So if you are just thinking about this year, and even this year, which is in its 8th day, You should know that the years are bundles of time, days, weeks, and things like that, and you have no control over them. The same way your watch keeps moving, that is the same way life moves. It doesn't stop for anything. And so you've got to pause and crystallize your life in the next 10 years so that it is intentionally driven, it is thought intensive, and then it's action oriented. If you don't do that, 2030 you will just be a product of another person's thoughts. If it's a nation, we will be a product of another nation's thoughts. So a nation is thinking about 2030 and countries that will need power and support. So they are building other power supply, alternative supply, maybe products. Now, if a nation like Ghana is not thinking about that, 2030 we may run into challenges we never envisaged, and we would have to fall on that country that thought 10 years ahead and become a product of their thoughts.
So how should we look at it? What do we want by 2030? Do we want 10 cars? Do we want 5 houses? What do we want?
Right. So that is a good question. And this is how, if you are listening, you should approach it. There are specific anchors, strategic anchors in any long-term plan that you have to put down as an individual. And I'll run you through those anchors so that you don't also just sit down and write some wish lists and say that is your 2020 goal or 2020 plan. So number one is that you must be able to put together a personal purpose statement. The anchors of every long-term strategic plan must have a personal purpose statement. I'll explain that in detail. The second thing is that the same long-term plan must have a personal vision statement. The third one is that it must have a top 5 personal core values. So the first anchor is your personal purpose statement. The second anchor is your personal vision statement. The third one is your top 5 personal core values. And then the fourth one, you should have an anchor that talks about strategic focus areas of your life in those 10 years. And then the final one will be specific objectives and SMART goals that are going to be indicators of whether you are getting there or not. So these 5 critical indicators must be identified, ring-fenced, and you must think about them and put details to them, which I'll be talking about, so that in 10 years you know exactly what kind of picture you want to have. So you live each day deliberately, you live each minute deliberately, and even if you are not going to get it 100%, you get closer. And I mean, if you don't do this and you still become successful the way you are supposed to be and impact your generation, that will be a surprise, because even Jesus in Luke 14:28, I think, expressed a surprise at lives that are not lived without plans. So he said, is there anybody who decides to go to war and does not first sit down to count the costs? So that is like an expression of amazement. Is there anybody who would want to build a house and does not sit down to count the cost? So you are actually a miracle if the last 10 years you did not plan about what you wanted to see in 2020 and you still call yourself successful in 2020, because you don't have any goalpost to tell a goal scored or a goal over the bar. In 2010, you never saw 2020 when you were in 2010. And so you can't tell me you are successful in 2020 when the picture of 2020 that would define what success looks like for you was defined then. And I'm saying that if you can take a good look at what 2030 should be like, clearly spell it out, it gives you a picture of where you want to get to. And when we talk about the 5 strategic anchors and you get to a place like the focus areas, where I'll talk about maybe academics, maybe finance, maybe health, maybe family, relationships, and things like that, you'll be able to tell when I get there that I'm there. You'll be able to tell, just like if you are traveling to Tamale, you know you are going to Tamale. So when you get to Tamale, even when you have never been to Tamale before, you are able to find out and ask if this is Tamale. And when they confirm, you are convinced and you are happy that you're in Tamale. Why? Because that's where you are going.
Richmond, let's provoke the thinking of our listeners, our community this morning. And let me ask a simple question. It's been close to about 15 to 18 minutes since we began this conversation with Richmond only. And he has made a very key point about why it is important for you to think about your life in blocks of at least about 5 or 10 years. We are looking at the decade. because a lot of conversation on social media has been about how 2020 starts a new decade and how it's the opportunity for you to look ahead to 2030 and live the life that you want to live. So have you thought of your agenda 2030? Have you thought of how you want your life to look like in 10 years? Send us a message on 0244 340 437. 0244 340 437. In fact, I have permission that I can also do a few phone calls. So 0302 216 541 and 0244 340 437. 0302 216 541 0244 340 437. Talk to Papaya. Let him know what the plan is. We would put you on air so that Richmond can plug in to what you are doing personally, and we can impact. We can make the impacts that we would want to make. Yes, Felix from Koforidua, you want to know the resource, our resource person social media handles. We'll share them on the show before we go. But even before we forget, how do we find you on
Richmond
Twitter?
Kwame Frimpong. I mean, that's it.
Richmond Kwame Frimpong. Kwame
yes.
with an E.
Yes, Kwame with an
Frimpong
E.
with an I.
With an I.
Thank you. On Facebook. So call us 0302 216 541 0244 340 437. The first anchor area was the personal purpose statement. Tell us about
right. So you in designing a 10-year strategic plan for yourself as an individual, you have to understand that there is a reason for everything that exists. I mean, I want to break it down to the simplest terms. If you want to pick anything you can see with your eyes around you, each of them have a reason why they are around. You may not know, but everything you see has a reason
it's
for
made
existence.
for something.
It's made for something.
Let's hear Sly for just a second. Good morning, Sly.
Hey, good morning.
So what's your agenda 2030?
Oh, I've been listening to it. Started like 10 years or 5 years ago. Okay, so this year in particular is something I've started already. So it's just a continuation.
Okay.
I'm hoping that this first quarter I'll be able to complete my accommodation. I'm trying to set up a place for myself.
Okay.
And after that, there's some little health issues in there. Also, that one to then probably graduate from media school. So that is it for me. This 2020, some little things that will be attached to it.
Okay.
So that is mine.
Sly, do you mind sharing with us what the long-term goal is? If you go 10 years in the future, what kind of life have you seen for yourself?
Well, the thing is, there's a lot of things that I want to do. So in the next 5 to 10 years, let's say in the next 5 to 10 years, probably I will be hoping that in the media space, I will have my space over there. And then after that, I will want to venture into a transport business and also do some personal things. So I'm hoping that in this 10 years space, I'll be able to do some of this, even if not all. I see myself that I will have to be somewhere within this space.
Sly, thank you so much. Thank you so much. So that's an example, really. I wanted us to get something to chew on. So he wants to start a business, a transport business. He wants to get a space in the media. I believe he wants to get a job in the media. And he's already working on his accommodation. So that's a bit of, in simple terms, how does that work in feeding into
right? So I mean, that's okay, but when we are talking about strategic anchors and we are starting with personal purpose statement, it goes beyond you. It goes beyond thinking about the car you drive. It goes beyond thinking about the house you live in. It goes beyond what you eat daily. In fact, Jesus said that life, and here he's talking about the essence of life, purpose, does not consist in the abundance of the things you have. It's more than, it's bigger than that. In the next 10 years, your life purpose statement has to do with the reason why you are around. What would make other people's life better? What will make the generation remember you for something more than just yourself and your family and your children?
Okay.
It is bigger than what you eat, what you wear, what you drive. It's bigger than that. It is a generational influence, a value that you are bringing to your generation. And I'm saying everybody has been born for that purpose. There is a reason why you are here. The example of that is when Jesus was about starting his ministry, and he said, the Spirit of the Lord is upon me. He has anointed me too. Then he began recounting the things he's doing that is bringing value to humanity. I'm saying that everybody who is listening to me, in designing your purpose statement as the first strategic angle for your life plan, it is bigger than just you. What do you think you have been endowed with to change the lives of many millions and hundreds of people in the world, so that when you are dead and gone today, we can know you for something? It is not the house you live in. It is not the type of car you drive. It is not the phone you are holding. Your life is bigger than that. Those things will come subsequently. But your life and the 10-year goal you are building, that little business you are running, should answer a critical problem the entire generation you are running into and more are facing with.
So I want a good example of that so that we can capture it well. But Seth just joined us on the line. Good morning, Seth.
Yeah, good morning, Dan.
Yes, Seth, can you turn off the radio for me? What's your contribution?
Well, I want the man's number, I beg.
You can find him on Facebook, Richmond Kwame Frimpong. But if he has a number he will share, I'll definitely put it up. Put it out before the show is over. You're still live on the Super Morning Show. .7 FM, Richmond Kwame Frimpong, really challenging the way we are thinking and looking at how we should look at our lives in 10 years, and how we should even look at the specifics of our plan. So everything really feeds into the personal purpose statement. I don't want us to rush this through so we can't have enough time for anything else. So let's put a pin in on this here, and then we'll have to schedule a good time and continue the conversation and continue it well, because there is a lot of interest coming in from our listeners. So in closing this part of the conversation, Richmond, what would you say?
I would say that look for something that affects the generation in the next 10 years and makes the other person living somewhere else who can benefit from your gifting, your values, your beliefs, become a better person because you are around. So anything that makes the world better than you met it, that fits into your personal mission statement. And when you are able to do that, or maybe in our subsequent meetings, we'll run people through how to do that. When you're able to do that, you now can go to putting together a vision document that tells clearly what you want to achieve doing that, so that when you achieve your vision, it is meeting a purpose. It's not just a vision. So when I get a house, what does it do? When I get a car, what does it do? So if your vision is answering the question of the reason why you are around, then it's bigger than anybody else. It is from there that you now can move to values, core values that will guide you so you do the right things. And then from there you can move to strategic focus areas about your life. So now you come to your life and you say the areas are maybe finance and investment, the areas are family and relationships, the areas are health and keep fit and adventure. You break your life into those specific focus areas. So your daily routine about your life is feeding into your vision, is feeding into your purpose, and you're a happy person. Success will not just be a realization of something you own or something you have, but a greater good, and then ultimately your goals. So your goals become like the route you are plotting to take each of these success areas that will feed into your greater purpose, and then ultimately your daily routine. So you notice that your daily routine becomes a function of your future return. And so every day you live, you notice that whatever you are doing is leading you to the next 10 years. And that next 10 years optimization of your goals is affecting society, is affecting generations, and you become a generational influence instead of just having a wife, a car, 2 kids, and then saying that is success. Success is bigger than that.
Success is bigger than a wife, a car, and 2 kids. Very, very thought-provoking statements there from Richmond Kwame Frimpong. Thank you very much, Richmond, for joining us. Like I said, this is a conversation that continues way beyond now. Throughout the month, we'll be having a conversation about Agenda 2030. Tune in to Joyfm, your thought leader, as we help you plan the life that you want to live. We are doing the same for ourselves. It's our 25th anniversary, so it's a big deal for us. Richmond Kwame Frimpong is an investment advisory consultant, a life and business transformation coach, and he's the author of New Year Fresh Start. Thank you very much for joining us, Richmond.
Thanks.